each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Never doubt the power of just one person. All you fans of Rogue Ways out there tonight, you know how crucial an individual can be, both to the many people they encounter in their life, and even more so when they create a structure for organized change that can sweep not only through their own community and society, but all around the world. And that is exactly what my amazing guest tonight has done. He has created the InPower network and movement, helping people to maintain control over their health, bodies, and homes in the realm of vaccines and harmful electronic radiation. And he has also pioneered aspects of becoming truly sovereign as an individual, creation in existence. It is my honor to be able to talk tonight with Cal Washington. Cal, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay.
It's awesome to have you.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, before we get started, I'd like to remind people that you can go to rogueways.org to find more from me for free and some stuff that you can purchase like Rogue gear, like this fancy mug, and some shirts that you can get, my books, some tarot readings, classes, all kinds of stuff you can get there if you find the PayPal link, which is paypal.me/Corey Sharman. You can also buy my book directly from me, one of them at least, and that is Sine Curve of Aeons. It's $15 on Amazon, or you can PayPal me $15 directly and get rid of the tax and the shipping, and I will ship it directly to you for that flat price with an inscription and some Rogueway stickers. So that is the deal that is open to you. And if you find me on subscribestar.com/rogue-ways, you can enter to win right now these fabulous coasters that I've created for you. There's a set of 5, and that's a $50 value, and they're fresh pressed flowers set into those. They're really beautiful. So if you subscribe, even at the dollar level, you are entered to win those on Subscribestar, and there's plenty of more content there that you only find there. So go check that out as well. And finally, Cal, I like to start with the pointless question of the episode. And I was going to ask you, has much changed for you now that we're in this sort of viral sort of lockdown state of mind, or is life sort of continuing the same, or what are things like for you out there?
Everything, my life didn't change except when I go out and, see people with masks and avoiding you on the sidewalk and that kind of thing. But no, my life didn't change at all, like zero, really.
Yeah, because a lot of what you do is probably online and already virtual and whatnot, right?
Yeah, so I was already, at home a lot, and so yeah, it's no different, other than some things are missing off the shelves once in a while or whatever, right? That's it.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because for a while we didn't have much where I'm at. I'm in Colorado, and we didn't have much missing from the shelves except toilet paper for a long time. But now when I go in, I notice the shelves seem like a little bit emptier each time. And that doesn't really hold up with the narrative for me. So it's confusing because I'm like, well, it's not like our trucks stopped working, or, places where we get food aren't like shut down. This is part of our critical infrastructure. So why aren't the shelves being stocked? And someone I had talked to had said that they're in Canada, and they said that they had been updated and said, from their county or government or whatever, said that they would not be likely to get their kind of normal shipments of food. And I'm like, well, that doesn't even make sense given what they say is happening. So it's been interesting. I don't know if you've noticed anything like that or heard anything about that.
No, it's hard to say because there was hoarding going on for a while. People were panicking and just buying up,
everything.
Yeah, buying up everything.
Yeah.
And so I think it's part of it. Whether there's some sort of contrived shortages, I don't really know. But it's not really. No, each time I go out, it's slightly different, and like you have to stay 6 feet back in lineups, and they're not letting everybody into some stores, and lineups outside to get in, and that wasn't happening last week, but it was 2 days ago. So. Yeah.
I actually saw some people putting like a sticker on the floor, and they were working together to do it. And so their faces were like 3 inches from each other. And I was like, interesting. You're going to go that close to get the sticker down so that we stand far apart.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really kind of funny. And So I'm not really buying it. I don't want to panic anybody either, because there's some people that have some genuine fear going on,
Right.
and they look at each other as if you're a weapon or something that is going to harm them. And
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm not buying into it. When I
Yeah.
see a friend, I still hug and shake hands and all that, like, and they're kind of like,
Yeah. What are you doing?
yeah,
It's interesting, yeah, because I'm not really buying it either. And even if there's a virus and there's people dying and whatever, it's like, as far as I can tell, this happens every year, and so I'm not sure why we're freaking out this year.
well,
But
because the media is counting it.
yeah, right. We have this
Like it,
ongoing constant
yeah,
fear.
exactly. So there's, if this was last year and they were counting how many people got the flu, yeah, it would be going up in exponential numbers like this daily, and there would be daily people dying. And and I'm not, um, trying to say that like make that sound frivolous or anything, but
Right.
it look exactly like this.
Yes, yes, it would be exactly the same. And we've looked recently at the flu numbers and seen that they somehow just dropped dramatically this year. There's just no flu. But now we have this other magical disease that's almost the exact same number of people that would
Yeah.
have otherwise had the flu. And it's like very interesting how they're manipulating this into seeming so overwhelming. And it's like you said, there are probably people getting sick, and that's not to be trivialized. And we should always be aware of not, transmitting disease if that's how it works, and taking care of ourselves and our bodies so that we can stay healthy. But it's just very interesting to see. And now, like you said, people are looking at each other like they're a weapon, but it's also like people are looking at each other like they're enemies, because if you're not doing what they've decided is the appropriate thing to do, you are a public danger and you are to be dealt with. And it's
Yeah.
that's the part that's really gotten to me the most, is seeing how normal people who normally treat me pretty well and respectfully have now started treating me like I'm their enemy and like I should be locked up. And it's like, that was a pretty easy switch to make for you, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit. I'm a fairly large person, so people aren't gonna look like make any sort of gestures or anything like that. But
Right.
but I'm a man, and I'm a large man, so it's I'm not gonna get that kind of reaction, but I do get the looks. Like I walk with my son holding his hand, and I think that bothers some people. And,
So weird.
but he's 4, and he
Yeah.
likes holding my hand. Well, I'm not gonna walk 6 feet in front of him or something like that. Like, that's ridiculous.
Just
So,
traumatize him. Like, yeah. Yeah, we need that human touch. It's another thing someone pointed out recently that was interesting to me, is they said, I wonder if our hearts, they're electromagnetic fields in themselves, and I wonder if they work at a range of 6 feet or less, and that distance keeping us apart is like keeping us from, connecting on that sort of emotional level. And I was like, wow, that is a really interesting, even if it were accidental, it's a very interesting thing to think about, that we maybe need to be closer than that, actually.
yeah, I believe there is something to that. So, but it's amazing, the whole thing. What made it real was the toilet paper.
Yeah.
And so that fact alone should make people ponder, like, how did they do that, and why did everybody buy in? But it made it real because the shelves were empty. It's like, oh, there is something going on here, right? So you instantly subconsciously go, there's a problem,
Yes.
and then they just kept adding to it, and now it's a full-on pandemic.
It's very interesting, the toilet paper thing. And I had this feeling, pretty early on in that, seeing that, I was like, there's got to be something that is pushing people to do that. And maybe it's at this, the conspiracy theorist in me is like, maybe it's at this subconscious level. We know they have been working on technologies for years, if not already perfected them for a long time now, that can transmit sort of ideas and emotions into a person using electromagnetic frequencies. And so I was wondering, is there some subconscious signal being sent out that's like, buy TP, and like people responded and did it and didn't even maybe know why or something. I don't know, but I had that as an idea, at least, that maybe, because it was pretty weird and sudden and random and it's not rational,
Yeah, it seemed not. It actually anchored the thing, in my opinion, because that's what made it real.
Yeah.
like in the real life where this is affecting my life. I can't get toilet paper, and then you start to buy in all in other ideas, right? So it's just another trauma-based um, attack on the collective mind, and get everybody into fear, and then the collective mind is malleable, and you can make them do anything, right? So
Right. Yeah, it was like the trigger for that. It's interesting when you bring up trauma. My another friend of mine said, and this is again, it's kind of like a just a thought exercise. Perhaps it has some basis in reality, perhaps it has none. But she's thinking kind of out loud, like saying, well, potty training is sort of a traumatic experience for many children. You're sort of forced to do this thing that you are desperately like wanting not to do, and you have to, and you're shamed if you don't, and it's just sort of this trauma for some people, maybe not everyone, but for a lot of kids. And maybe that is sort of part of the trigger that they might be able to use to then tell everyone subliminally, go buy toilet paper right now. And you're like, I have to. It's an interesting thought, at least. I don't know
oh yeah, I never thought of that.
how
Yeah,
you could prove it, but it is a trauma that could tie into it, interestingly.
yeah, definitely anything's possible, but
Right.
but they definitely did use the toilet paper as the anchor, and that's when things changed.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody sort of took note and was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll come back to this virus and this topic in some way in this show, but I want to get to the sort of basics for you and where you sort of came from in life, and how you grew up in the world and what that was like.
Oh boy.
If you want to bring us back.
A pretty normal life, went to school, went to college, and then got into construction. I'm a musician, so I've been playing drums for a lot of years, you know, professional or semi-professional, however you look at that. And yeah, just a normal life. Had married, kids, and then a divorce. And it was the divorce that thrust me into court. Like,
Huh.
you were forced to go to court, and and they were very aggressive about it. That was the beginning, the change in my life. Like, my life took a different course at that point, and it was me trying to figure out what was going on in court, because I had an idea from court, from TV or from water, about what it was, and when I got there, it wasn't that, and or didn't wasn't acting like that anyway. And so I tried to figure out what was going on. And then one thing led to another. Then you start researching, and then you find some guy that teaches, something like one of these gurus, and so you go, oh, that's interesting. So you try that. So I tried a lot of different things, and just got I was in just more and more trouble, and it didn't seem like there was a way out. Like, really, it didn't. I couldn't see it. And then once I learned commerce way down the road, they started running from me. The first act was a judge ran out of the room when I walked in, and I went, okay, this might
Something
be working.
happened.
Yeah, something changed here. And so it was, and even then, it was just, we were just trying it. I was just trying it. I didn't come with full knowledge. It was like, okay, I'll try this too. And number 17 on the list of however many I could find.
Yeah.
And so then that's when we started studying that more, because we got the reaction. Why did we get the reaction? Was that a coincidence? What happened? And so then you go deeper, and then you try it again, and you get a similar reaction. Maybe not running out of the room, but definitely not coming in the room. I sat numerous times. Judges recusing themselves. Just a lot of abnormal behavior from people who, up to that point, were in control of my life and making my life miserable. All of a sudden, they're backing away, and so that's how I came about. And then it was just a learning experience, one after the other, and and then you end up on this path.
Wow.
That's basically how it happened.
That's amazing. Well, what was the original sort of disillusionment with the court that wasn't what you had expected it to be, that sort of got you to question and think back in divorce court?
Well, it was about, I thought how it was you present a case, and the other side presents a case, and then you figure out who's not telling the truth or whatever. You come to some balanced thing about, okay, this is right, this is just, this is the proper thing to do, and that wasn't happening. It was almost like they weren't listening to either of us, and they were just interested in how long is this going to take, how many more sessions before we can move on to what we need from this. I could really feel it. It was palpable, but I couldn't figure out what is it they're trying to get. And because I still thought it was about a divorce and where the children are going to be and who's paying who and all that, and selling. Our house got sold, which wouldn't. If I knew what I knew now, it wouldn't have been sold. But regardless of that, I didn't know what I know now, and so I tried to figure out what it was that there seemed to be a separate agenda that wasn't apparent. When I look back, and actually, fairly soon down the road, I did figure it out, and especially after I learned commerce and when I learned what money was and how commercial instruments work and what they are, what they look like, I realized that the child support order, because it has a sum certain, a date, who's paying who, and a signature, it is the money. And so the actual court order for X to pay X, the piece of paper is the value that's written on it. And guess who keeps that?
The state.
Yep. And you guys carry on and fight it out, and hopefully you can make it or not make it. But if you don't make your payments, we're going to throw you in jail. And all this stuff that happens is very traumatic for people. But at the root of what I call it divorce industry is getting those pieces of paper, because they have value in the market, and they can put them on the stock market inside of mutual funds and all that. So they sell those. It's a sellable piece of paper. It has value. Yeah. By definition, you can look up the definitions of financial instruments, bill of exchange. If you just look up the definition of a bill of exchange, it has to have 4 things on it, and it's considered money in the old Lex Mercatoria type system, merchant system. So all these debt things, like your mortgage, all the loans, it's the piece of paper that the bank is ledgering as an asset. It's a debt. It's evidence of a debt, and that becomes an asset in a backwards system that we live in.
Is there anything to stop me from just making pieces of paper and putting those 4 things on it and then just calling it money?
Nope.
Oh, well then maybe I'll do that. That sounds fun.
I don't suggest that you do that, but what you said is true.
Huh.
So if you have some knowledge, and you understand how it works, and you can prove that you understand it, then yeah. If you just start throwing them around pieces of paper, you'll get yourself in a bunch of trouble.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the difference. And so in my life right now, they know that I know that they know that I know that they know.
Yeah.
So there's no, forget it. The curtain's open. You can't pretend like you don't know that I know. And I know that you know that I know. So stop. Huh. And that's why I'm left alone. It's over. I know too much. And I don't mean that in a egotistical way.
No.
I just went through a lot of heartache and hard knocks and learned. And then I saw the results of it. And now they just don't interact with me at all.
That's amazing. So what got you to the point where you could go into a courtroom and a judge would leave or would not enter when you were there?
It's the commercial instruments and the affidavits, etc., that you put in with certain truths in there. And then when you have a commercial instrument that is along the lines of a surety, you are indemnifying the case. And I'm going to get a little much for people here, but you can't, in a sense, control the case. Like you're the one, you're the money behind it. Therefore, it's your case. You're the one who has, I wouldn't say you own it, but you're in control of it because you're the one indemnifying it at the highest level.
You're the most powerful entity involved in it.
You have the most money in the pot. Yeah. So you're taking the biggest risk because you would have to pay out, and therefore they have to they have to kind of acknowledge you. Like they can't just, they'll try at first, but once they know that and like once the game kind of falls apart and they can't pretend anymore, yeah, they have to get out of your way, kind of thing. So I saw things like, well, quite a few times judges wouldn't come in the room, cases disappearing, cases ending after the first appearance. One judge, I was helping a guy and he was incarcerated, so he was in a glass box, and he kept looking back at me to get his answers, right? Because they'd ask him a question, he'd look back at me, and I go, yeah, no. And so the judge goes, hey, you keep looking back at that man. Would it be helpful if you two could meet? Ace just went, you can't do that. And the judge goes, are you telling me what I cannot do in my courtroom? Oh, no. Yeah, well, those two need to meet. Is there a place? So he said, well, there's a place in jail cells underneath where the lawyers can talk to the prisoners. Okay, well, have them meet there. And they wouldn't let me in once I got to the sheriff's office. Said, give us your phone number and we'll have him phone you. I said, no, I'm not giving you my phone number. So, well, that's how it has to be. I said, well, that's not what the judge said. Well, I don't care. I said, well, it's fine.
Go back to the judge.
Yeah, back to the judge. And the judge asked, did these two meet? No, he wouldn't give us and the guy didn't even get to finish his sentence, and he just put his hand up. These two will meet in my courtroom. I want the courtroom emptied.
Wow.
And the prosecutor goes, you can't, are you telling me again what I cannot do in my courtroom? No, Your Honor. Well, he's a prisoner and he might pass. Sir, would you mind being frisked by the sheriff? I said, no, you frisk me. All right, you frisk him, then you two sit in the back. Sheriff, you sit up at the front. I don't want you listening to them. Everybody else out for as long as they want.
Wow.
Yeah, so these types of things don't happen
No.
No. And it was on and on like this. And so, at first you think it's a coincidence, but then it becomes like, no, there's definitely something going on here, and I'm definitely hitting a nail, right? So
there's a pattern. So then, okay. So do you? I have so many questions. I don't know where to start. Do you then offer this as like a service that you do for people who are stuck within the legal system, and they can sort of hire you to help them through that, or was that just a sort of specific situation that happened?
That was my own situations, and then I was helping a guy. He was actually my roommate while I was incarcerated for 60 days. And so when he was still in and I got out, I started helping on he had 2 cases running. And so I started helping the day I got out. And day one, the judge stepped down after already hearing the case numerous times. His lawyer fired himself.
Wow.
Day one, I walked in the courtroom and that's what happened.
Wow. So
I didn't want to deal with what I was doing. So,
do the lawyers and the judges understand the side of the sort of game that you've figured out, or are they just sort of responding in the moment based on intuition, or do they know what they're doing and why they're doing it, or how does this all work?
Well, when we first started doing commercial instruments, I don't think many of them knew. They had to catch up. We were ahead of them, and so I think they tried to educate themselves. But I would say where I live, by and large, most of the judges knew, but not all of them. And very few lawyers did, but some did. But they would be like very high-end lawyers, really connect, like,
Yeah.
old, yeah.
They're the club of some
yeah,
level.
very connected. through other means, other societies and all that. So those guys knew, but by and large, regular lawyer would just look at me like I was nuts, and they still do. They still there's no basis in law for this.
Hmm.
I said, on the way I try and help people, because what happens is a lot of people believe lawyers. It's just the thing.
Yeah.
They almost treat them like judges. And so the lawyer says I got a letter that says there's no basis in law for this. And I said, yeah, that's because he went to a place called law school.
Hmm.
And that law school is owned by somebody, and that somebody decided how much that person was going to, how much information they were going to get.
Hmm.
And when they regurgitated a specific amount of information, they got what was called a law degree, which then allowed them to practice law. If there was other information, they wouldn't know.
They didn't go beyond that. So what were your sources that you used to educate yourself about this alternative or true system?
I took a couple seminars, but it's all online. If you look up Lex Mercatoria, that's not modern because it's Middle Ages, but because it's ancient. That's another thing you got to understand. This idea of banking and all that, they found stuff on stone tablets.
Wow. This goes back to the beginning of this whole problem.
Yes, it's the root of the problem. And so you got to understand that this has been around a very long time. And I would even say longer than Adam has been here, for those that understand that. So it's a system that's ancient, but the sort of the modern version where it starts to be modern is the Middle Ages, when countries started to trade internationally on a larger scale with boats and stuff, when they started getting into larger boats and moving goods around the world, the known world. And, or I don't even, history is so, but
Convoluted,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah, we
Who
don't
knows
even know
what's
what's real anymore.
Right.
But regardless of that, the story is there was a known world, and they started trading amongst the merchant class. And the issue was languages, different money systems, different laws of how to do contracts and all that. So what happened was a sort of organic system came, but it's ancient, but it got utilized, and it was called law merchant or lex mercatoria. And it was very dynamic, very fair, in principle, and you got to the bottom of things very quickly. So if there was a litigation, it was done in hours, not days, weeks, months, because the transient nature of the merchants and ships would leave at the next tide and everything. So you had to settle it before that ship was disappeared or it was gone, and they had no recourse, right? And so it was a very dynamic system. It got fused into the common law in the 1700s officially, and then they just kind of stopped talking about it. The judges were told to take judicial review of the law merchant for any sort of merchant type disputes, so that they could use that system instead of the common law, which was arduous and you had to prove this and everything, all this stuff. This was very fast moving. Now it's called summary judgment. So you can see it operating in the court, but they disguise it. But once you've studied it, you can see it very, it's alive and well.
So summary judgment is their way of using lex mercatoria in the courts without anyone noticing, sort of?
Yeah, because it's not based on undisputed fact. It's more based on
Their
probabilities. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So most judges understand this as true. Do they think that it's okay? This like fits with their morals somehow? I don't know. It's so weird to me that all these people can be sort of in on this and just not care how much damage it might do, or...
Well, my theory, and I don't think this is 100%, but not everybody gets to become a judge.
Yeah.
I know in some places you vote your judges in, but where I live, you're appointed, and I don't know all these people. I don't know their personal lives, but there are certain ones that I know that are involved with more sordid things.
Hmm.
And it seems like the deeper they get into that, the higher they go up the ladder. Therefore, they get more information, and yeah, they're okay with it. Like this is good. I'm making my life is good.
And even if they weren't at some level by that point, they're like in too deep and they're probably
Yes,
just going to keep going.
they're compromised. So for them to come out would be probably a death sentence.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense to me too. So, is there when you're when you understand these things in Lex Mercatoria, that led somehow to you also becoming a sort of like living man or a sovereign being in our legal system, or are these things related? Did one lead to the other? Or am I totally misunderstanding things?
No, because I did that. That was my first thing. Was like I'm not the capitalized name and all that, and I argued all that stuff, and I made steps to get myself out of the system, but they ignored it, and so it kind of ties with it. But the way I look at it now with the documents that I'm sharing with everybody is we've all been turned into merchants through the birth certificate and other ID, and therefore, and I got myself out, but it's my lifestyle is not that easy, so it's not for everybody. Like you got to be committed, and you got to put up with some inconveniences.
What?
So, like, go ahead.
Oh, you keep going, but I want to get to the inconveniences too, because that'd be interesting to understand what
Okay,
you
well,
sort of
I don't.
sacrifice.
I don't have a driver's license. I don't
Okay.
have a bank account.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's
that
already
will.
yeah.
I don't have any ID. The only ID I have, I happen, providentially, I happened to get my U.S. citizenship just before all this happened.
Oh,
Yeah, when I look back at the path, that was the first piece that had to be done, and then I was able to function. So that's the only piece that allows me to do anything in the commercial system. So I can still fly, I can still cash a check. I can't show two pieces of ID, but I can usually get away with the one.
so what ID do you have, and how do you fly if you?
I have a U.S. passport.
And that is not the same as having like a state ID or some other.
Well, the thing is, I'm born in Canada,
Hmm.
so my whole life, I've lived in Canada. So my U.S. passport, other than the people that can get a state one, is probably the cleanest passport that you can get. I don't have an SSN number. I don't have any other ties to the United States.
Ah,
They issued a passport from I got it from the consulate here. That's where I picked it up, but I think it was issued out of, I don't even know where. It was probably Washington, D.C.
yeah.
And when I've used it, it doesn't work. It won't work on any machines automatically at the airport. Everything
Ah.
never does. Like it just goes. Don't know what this is. I have to go to a person every time.
Wow.
And one time I got pulled over, and that's the only ID I have here in Canada. And they had trouble getting reciprocal jurisdiction through driving, because the states and Canada have this reciprocal where their
Right.
motor vehicle acts interact.
Yeah.
They can kind of jurisdiction. They couldn't get it with that, and I'm sure they tried. They had it for over an hour and a half, and then a woman officer, tried to play the nice person, and so what state issued that passport? And I'm like, I didn't get it from a state.
Yeah.
Well, you had to. Well, I didn't. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more time. Then she turned mean, and
Wow.
I said, I got the passport from the U.S. consulate in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. That's where I got it from. I don't know who issued it.
Right.
and that was the end of it.
Interesting. So if I, maybe you don't know this, I'm not sure, but I have a social security number because I'm a United States citizen and a passport. Would I somehow have to, like, get rid of or rescind my social security number to?
No,
Okay.
here's what I was getting at before that is
Okay.
I knew that everybody's in the box and they turned everybody into a merchant. So the document is written as if you are a merchant. So
This is our
we're
birth
using what.
certificate. Okay.
So, and your SSN number in particular.
Okay.
So because they turned us all into merchants so they could take advantage of us in Lex Mercatoria because we don't understand that it exists, number one, nor less, let alone how it works.
Right.
And therefore we get into these weird contracts, including taxes and all this stuff, and that's how they're doing it. They had to turn us into merchants first in order for that to work. So I'm just taking that, the fact, and going, okay, you guys say that we're merchants. Here's a whole bunch of merchants that are going to get you into a contract.
Huh.
And they can't say that you're not merchants because they're the ones that turned you into one.
Interesting. This made me think of the, this coronavirus stimulus package that we're getting in the States, at least, it just seems very tied to you continuing to be this sort of slave, merchant, whatever, in their system. If you haven't paid taxes, you don't get any stimulus relief. Even if you're a self-employed person, you don't get any support. So you have to sort of have like inserted yourself as a slave and accept that role to continue getting this support. And it makes me wonder if that's part of their reason for sort of pulling this card, if that's what happened, at this time, because enough people are sort of like waking up and trying to get out of that system and become more independent and free, and this is going to get people kind of tied back into it maybe, or I don't know. It's just interesting.
It could be, but it could also be they just need to know that you exist, because as soon as there's free money, everybody's going to try,
True.
try every trick in the book to get more, or what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I'm Bob Smith, but today I'm Joe Green, and
True. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing with like all of these offers of like, oh, you will help you out with this, or we'll give you free rent or free whatever for a month or two if you come down with coronavirus. So then people are like gonna rush to get tested so they can be like, look, I have it, give me the free things.
Yeah, well, it's almost that bad.
But so I heard, I don't remember the details, but there was some aspect of your journey where you interacted directly with the Queen, and as part of your becoming free, I guess, or sovereign, or however we're going to describe that. What was that about?
I became sovereign. Like I said, I tried it the one way by sending paper, and then I did a declaration one time, getting towards the end, and I read it out loud in front of witnesses, and I called in archangels, etc.
Awesome.
And that document, I believe, that event was what really got me free. And then when I was locked up, they were going to try and use and part of that document was I rescinded everything, driver's license, all the Canadian stuff. And when I was locked up and they were trying to get me on this driving without insurance charge, they wanted to bring my license in, which I had rescinded as evidence. And when I saw it, like the prosecutor had it was on a piece of paper, but it was color, and I could see that it was mine. So I told my friends, go post the declaration I made. So they went and posted it all on trees and doors everywhere, all over the courthouse, and on the bulletin board. I'll talk about the bulletin board, but they never brought it up.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was written to the Queen and to Ban Ki-moon. Like, he got a copy. I can't remember who else, because I've done so much, so blur, but I know those two for sure got it. Probably the Prime Minister. I used to use the provost marshal in both Canada and U.S., so they might have got it.
What was that? The Prols Marshal?
Provost marshal, yeah. So it's like a military police. You
Hmm.
should look that up. I think the provost marshal becomes in the United States becomes the most powerful man other than the president during martial law.
Oh, okay. Interesting. He might be coming up soon in our lives.
Maybe but yeah, I think that's how it went. I think Abraham Lincoln had a provost marshal, and I think he ended up being second in command during martial law.
Interesting.
I think that's how it goes, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong. But anyway, up there, he'd be like pretty much takes over.
Hmm.
So that's like military police. Um, and yeah, that's a whole interesting thing. There's a lot of things that I discovered over like what the sheriffs do. Like some strange things happen around sheriffs,
Hmm.
and like out of character things, and they would all of a sudden be on your side and be yelling, and and you're like, where did that come from?
Huh.
There's something more going on, and I've seen it too many times in too many different places. That there's like in the movie The Matrix, the best way to describe it is the scene where Morpheus is taking Neo. You know the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. When he first is showing him how the Matrix works, and he says, "Okay, this is a simulation, and all these people in here." And the woman with the red dress goes by, and he looks, and then he goes, "Oh, you're looking at the." Then he says, "Look again," and there's a guy standing there with a gun.
Yeah.
The woman changed into the man. He says that at any point in time, an agent can become one of these people.
Hmm.
That is real. That's the best way I can describe it. And I've seen it with sheriffs. All of a sudden, they're like, "You're protecting me now," and 2 minutes ago, you were calling me every name in the book, and like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't. I could tell you don't like me, and you're treating me a certain way, and then all of a sudden, because I said something, you instantly, blah, 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 and you're just like, what's going on here? But it's actually real, and it can happen good and bad.
Okay. I was going to ask that. Is it always like coming to your defense or your aid, or is it sometimes the other way around?
No, what I
So,
call them is gatekeepers, and I find them at post offices, at the consulate once, um, any place where you're trying to get something, you get the no, 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 and you have to kind of hold your ground and ask 3 times, and all of a sudden they back down. So it's a strange thing, but it happened too many times for it not to be real, like way too many times.
and that, do you think is an actual, like, are they aware of it, or do you think that some sort of consciousness is coming in through them because of their position or agreements they've made, or?
Well, see, again, this was all I didn't have the manual on this. I was just like,
You're figuring it out as you go.
I'm just trying to get through, like, get free of this thing, right? I'm
Right.
trying everything, and I'm just like, whatever. Let's try that. Let's do this. Let's do that. So there was one time we went to do a post office mailing, and there was a guy behind, and this wasn't even in a post office. It was like in a store that it's like a postal outlet we have here, right? Where you can just do post office in a drugstore or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's just the store clerk, but he comes and does the post office if you need it. And I wanted him to stamp my documents. And normally when we go to the post office, we got to the point where I don't know if I should be saying this. It doesn't matter. where the clerk behind the thing would actually give us the stamp.
Wow.
Which is like a big no-no. A lot of people couldn't even get their stuff stamped, but they would go, "Yeah, here." And
You
it
can
happened
stamp whatever you
a lot.
want.
And we were stamping everything. So anyway, I go into this store and I said, I want this thing stamped. He said, "I'm not stamping that," because I had it on. I put the sticker on my document, and I wanted it stamped, the postal sticker. "No, I'm not stamping that. That's not our document." I said, "The sticker is your document, and you have to you have to snap the sticker. And he's just glaring at me. And then he tries to get the snap exactly, and he's glaring at me the whole time. I'm not sure how he was lining this up, but he's staring at me like hatred, and he's trying to get it on just on the sticker. And I said, no, on the sticker and the paper. And he twisted his hand, and
Whoa.
not 2 days later, we went to the same place, same guy. He had no recollection of it. You could tell.
That's really interesting. I feel like I've had similar circumstances that have nothing at all otherwise to do with your story. But that, something seems to sort of like come through somebody and they do not recall it afterwards. So what do you think that is?
Well, the Bible calls it demons or angels or that kind of thing. So they are conscious entities.
Yeah.
However you look at that doesn't really. It's just semantics and words, right? So,
Right.
But that's what it is.
Agreed.
I call them gatekeepers sometimes, and you'll see them at courthouses. Usually, the person at the desk. No,
Yes.
can't get in here. Can't, no. Yeah, I can, and boom, they do it, right? So, yeah, well, I ran across them, lots.
So what do you think that they're going to come through in those situations? Is it like because you are the person there asking for something or trying to interact in some way, and so they're kind of coming through like to confront you specifically? Because I bet a lot of people have not had those experiences.
No, they probably haven't, and I don't think I had those experiences before either. Yeah, they're trying to block what I'm doing and trying to get me to disbelieve who I am and what that I'm correct and all that. So they just try and go, no, it's not in here.
They're Agent Smiths.
Oh yeah, it is. No, yeah, no, yeah, okay. It's usually 3.
3 times. Interesting. 3 is always the magic number, isn't it?
Yeah. I got it at the consulate too, and a guy came out. I had already used the consular, the lady who is the consul. I think that's what it is.
I think so too.
Yeah. I'd already used her to notarize my documents. I was on the site, and I just happened to notice, American citizen can get documents notarized at the U.S. consulate. So, what better notary than the U.S. consulate? So I went in there, and she did the first round. Second round, because it was caused a kerfuffle, the phone calls were made and stopped stamping his documents. So I came in for the second round, and no. Those are Canadian politicians. It has nothing to do with the U.S. And so I said, well, I'm a U.S. citizen, and one of my rights here is to have documents notarized. Well, no, we're not doing it. It has nothing to do with the United States. And I said, yeah, but the contract is in U.S. dollars, and therefore it falls under U.S. jurisdiction. I'll go get her. But see, had I gone and turned around like he thought I would, and he did it twice, you can't do that. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Yeah, we're doing it.
It's like such a simple trick too that I feel like anybody can apply if they come in contact or confront any of these types of things. It's just like push for the 3rd time at least, and see what happens.
Yeah, because what they do, because we're trained that somebody behind a desk or wearing a certain clothing or certain badge or whatever it is, that as soon as they say something, that's it. There is no, that's the truth, and that's how it's going to be. And
right.
But
people just back down.
In your heart that that's not fact, then you can gently, don't be belligerent, but firmly say, no, I'm going to push till I get what I need here.
That's awesome. So what made you, did you already understand, or how does the Bible and archangels tie in with this? Is this just kind of the way things are? How did you figure that out? Did you already have that understanding before all of this, or did it come out because of it?
I had a good Bible knowledge before, but it was a point of view And once I started learning commerce, some of the principles in there seem to be like, oh, that's very similar to that.
Hmm.
And like settle with your brother on the way to court is in the Bible, and you have to be you have to you have to conditionally accept offers. Like you can't just go no. You have to, okay, I will, if, or if you, or but, or something like that.
Huh.
It's a way of doing things. And this kept happening. I thought, is this a coincidence? And so then once you see it about 4 or 5 times, you go, okay, we better see if this is actually happening. And sure enough, it was. So by the time I got through, a pile of everything that happened, and everything together, my take on what's happening right now is this stems from a claim that's written in the Bible that Lucifer claimed to be God.
Hmm.
And God being one of his attributes is being just. He cannot be unjust. He can actually look at things in an absolute fair way. Like he cannot not do it.
Hmm.
And if you know that about him, then you can say things in a certain way, and results will happen. So that had to be actually entertained. Okay, how are we going to see if this is a possibility? And if you put everything that's happening in that context, you'll see that that's what this is all about. And I know there's I'm glossing over a lot, but that's the bottom line. We're in that. We are the judge, jury, the pawns. We're everything about that, because God put himself here in a forgetful state.
Hmm.
Truly forgetful, otherwise it wouldn't have been fair. And then the exercise is to see if he can be manipulated into doing crazy things, like destroying himself and destroying the planet and all that stuff. And as you can see, we've been heading in that direction for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're starting to wake up. And once we do and realize who we are and what we're doing, and that we can change our mind in an instant. So they're
Love that.
dangerously pushing the envelope here, and it could backfire in a moment.
Hmm.
And that's what I see is happening, because they're being rooted out, and there's lots of things going on, and even in unseen realms. And from my point of view, this is the beginning of the beginning. It's the end of the old and the beginning of the new.
Yeah.
And it just looks it can look different than that.
That all makes a lot of sense to me. Isn't it ironic then that that like part of the reason why sort of good would win is because Lucifer was sort of like full of hubris and was like, yeah, I'm totally God, and now I have to pretend like all of this. And that's part of the holes that get poked in the system is because of that exact thing.
Well, it's actually an insane idea, and I'm not sure how it even came about. Still haven't got to that point, but it did, and the evidence is here. But that's what this is all about. It's a court case, and I saw the court in the book of Job, and I'd read the book of Job many times, and it's you get caught up in the story. But what I didn't notice until I'd been in court and been down a few roads was, hey, they're at court in the beginning of the book. There's an actual court case that, like, the sons of God assembled before the Most High, and Lucifer was there too.
Huh.
And God said, hey, where have you been? Oh, I've been on earth, which means not here where they were standing, over there on earth. So Lucifer was able to still come and interact with this court. Then he says, oh yeah, how about my Job? Oh yeah, well, that's because you know he's the richest man on earth, and you've got a hedge around him. let me take that away, and I'll bet you he'd curse you to your face. You see the case?
Hmm.
God had to go, okay, I see your point. You can take you can take this from him, but you can't do that and that. Limits. He came back 3 times and removed more and more.
Hmm.
So that told me a lot about that there is a place or a state of being or whatever it is, because I don't believe it's 3D,
Right.
but there is a venue where there's court cases that are of high magnitude.
Wow. So this has a lot of implications for every single person alive, and even if they don't take the time to understand Lex Mercatoria and go through necessarily the steps you have taken, because as you said, it's maybe not for everyone. Your life has a lot of differences from what a lot of us are used to at this point. It would still be then crucial for people to at least understand that aspect of them as a spiritual being.
You don't have to know anything to sign this thing.
Hmm.
That's the beauty of it, because that's how they designed their system.
Yeah.
It's about ignorance, and you just sign on a piece of paper. So guess what? That's what you guys have been doing for eons. How do you like it now?
Yeah.
A bunch of ignorant people are signing on the thing and creating this massive thing that goes up to that court up there. And they don't even know it, but it still goes there.
Yeah. So do you suggest that people do try to understand everything about this and make themselves sovereign in legal truth, or however you want to say that?
Yeah. So when you join become a member. So just so it's very clear, what we're doing is charging people $15. I hate saying charging, but
Yeah.
the $15 a month, and you join, you get access to all the documents, and then you get teachings of wide variety, starting mostly with me because that's what we've got. But we're bringing in other experts on what they do, because I don't know everything. I just know what I know,
Yeah.
and I only know what I know, and I don't even know what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can teach what I do know, and so that's already there. And then we'll bring in other people, so you'll be able to learn how to do a state passport, how to set up a trust, how to get out if you want to get out, all these things, and that's all part of the membership. So that's what we're doing, so that people can be educated and learn who they are. And the more that you know who you are, the more effect you have in other realms. Put it that way.
So it's not just for you. It's not just for you here now physically. It's for you and everyone all the time, like in all spaces.
Yeah, we can bring about the change contractually. And it's my belief, because I have no way of knowing other than what I gleaned from the Bible, etc. It seems to me that the help that we need is held back contractually. Like there's a you can do this, but you can't do that, because it worked the other way. So we just have to get that defaulted, that contract, and or create a new contract where they can come in and clean this mess up.
You're talking now sort of angelic forces or whatever you want to call it in that realm could come through
or
more
if
easily.
If you believe in,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right. Just words, really.
Yeah, they're held back. That's the only thing that makes any sense. And they do interact, but it's limited, and we need more unlimited help.
Direct, unlimited, yeah. And that contract is not, it's something you understand exists, but you don't understand exactly what might be in it or why it's there, or what it says, sort of.
It would have to do with making sure that the original claim that I talked about, is played out fairly.
Okay.
Because I can guarantee you, if they make one wrong move, appeal.
Right.
And I can guarantee you, appeals have been happening for eons, and it's time to
be done. Yeah.
Close this case.
Yeah.
Move on with the universe as it was designed.
Right. I love that. So you are like, it's like you can feel very good about not only doing this for yourself, like I said, but also for adding to this sort of ongoing case and possibly ending that contract and getting everybody more direct help that they need. And so this, if people are going to the InPower movement and subscribing to that service for $15 a month, and they're learning about all of this, they're also then, is this for every sort of country around the world, or is it certain countries that you want to limit it to, or how does it sort of work?
We've never limited it, but I can tell you how it kind of evolved. It was U.S., Canada, then other Commonwealth countries came on, and then just sort of recently in the last year or so, European countries started coming on. But we have no Asian and no one on Crow's thing said something about Japan, but that's the first time I've heard anything from Asia, and nothing from like Eastern Bloc.
Okay.
Not because yeah, it's just that's the way it's kind of unfolding. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is it, do you have any feeling or sense that like China and a lot of Asian countries are sort of almost in like a different system, or do you think that's they're all just sort of the same?
We're all in one system because they're the Bible says that there's four kingdoms, and that's what starts to make sense. There's actually four different rulers of different areas, and that's why there's that weirdness.
There's, is that sort of like archonic rulers of those regions, or are you familiar with
Yeah,
that? Okay.
like I think they're called. You can say
Principalities.
archons or principalities.
Okay.
I think the Bible, in the more Gnostic texts, they say archons, but in the Bible itself it says principalities.
Okay.
So even Michael, when Daniel was praying to him, it took him 2 weeks because he couldn't get past the Prince of Persia. They had to battle to get past that.
Wow. That is interesting. And what
It's
are
real stuff. I've been involved with some, and it seems like they need somebody on the ground to say stuff. It's
Yeah.
like they can't do it themselves. Like it's like, can you say this?
Yeah.
You're like, what does that mean? And then you sit there for a second, then all of a sudden you get this kind of epiphany. Ah, yes, boom, 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 and then they're on it, like
Wow.
on it. It's like finally.
Someone's going to help us. That is fascinating. It makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense if there's like this sort of legal situation going on at multiple levels, and you're not allowed to break certain rules, or else things will be set back. Who knows how long and who knows how much. Do you have any sense of what those four regions are?
Well, I would say, yeah, North America, and then I think some other things come in. Like I think the Queen has a big chunk. Her oath covers a lot, and I have a feeling her oath might even cover the whole earth. But
Wow.
that's where that's the contract between realms is her oath, and that's how they're able to hold
Keep
that
it.
back. But I'm not sure about that. There's no way to really know.
Right.
They hide it, everything. But I would say the Eastern Bloc countries are kind of together. Asia, Europe, North America, and maybe South America, Africa.
Okay. Interesting. And the Queen would have full knowledge of all of this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Queen. There's very little the Queen doesn't know.
It's just fascinating to me still, because I'm like, what are the people who are doing what I consider to be evil? What do they think they're going to get out of this? And why would you be on that side? I don't get it. I never understand it.
Because they think Lucifer can
It's,
actually pull this off. A third of the angels at the time went with, yeah,
that's a good point.
I think this is correct. I think you should be God.
And what do you think would happen if Lucifer does pull this off?
He won't.
I don't think so either.
Matter of fact, I know.
I would say I know too. I just don't think people would believe me.
I know because I'm here. That's that sounds really strange, but if I know what I know, and I don't know everything because I don't, but I know enough that you got to remove me, and I can't be removed because even if you kill this body, I'm still here,
Yeah.
and I already know too much.
And that doesn't go
I've
away.
already figured out way too much for this to carry out, and
And you've
all.
spread it to other people and like put that spark in their kindling sort of, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So the same traumatic mind that's prevalent right now, if it got a different message, it can spread just as fast.
That's a really good point. Especially in like an awakening sort of state where you're like suddenly it's like when you awaken in any level in any way, no matter what topic we're talking about, it's like the amount of sort of sleeping that you had, it's like all that energy that should have been coming through during that sleep comes out at once. It's like this, you know, explosion that moves out into probably all directions and all realms. So that's a pretty
And the thing,
powerful
it's
tool.
extremely powerful because they don't even make a choice. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Once the collective mind is like in this state where it's like it's active and like happening, you can say anything, and it all beings that are connected to it instantly go, "That's it," and
Yeah.
that's because it's like toilet paper. There's no toilet paper. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a virus. Oh.
Or
Like
like you're a soul and you're actually free and all of this is just a trap. Like,
exactly,
yeah.
and you can't not get that thought. That's when this thing is active like this. I liken it to a flock of birds. Like if when you watch a flock of birds, they all move at one,
Yeah.
or a school of fish, because there's only one mind there. And any fish that gets close instantly becomes part of the one. And you have to get away from it in order to so that it doesn't affect you.
Yes. Yeah.
So with that in mind, whatever message goes into that mind, that's what all the ones that are connected to it do. And they don't even know why. They don't question it. It's just is the truth, and this is how it is, right? So with that in mind, we can actually, if we had the wherewithal, we could get a proper message into that mind in an instant.
Yeah. That would be exceedingly amazing. I totally lost my track of thought. I guess I get really frustrated because I look at, especially, and it's like the sort of conspiracy alternative realm or whatever you want to call this, you know, audience that we have right now and group that we're sort of a part of, if that exists. It's like there's a lot, it's like almost half the people are sort of very spiritually aware and the other half are like scared to even consider a spiritual aspect of thing, or maybe scared isn't even the right word. They like refuse to even possibly consider a spiritual side of things. And that is frustrating to me because I feel like all of the sort of topics that we might tend to encounter point in that direction. And it's just this really interesting phenomena, I guess, that so many people have that built into them that they would just shy away from even acknowledging a spiritual aspect of self, let alone the sort of fight or whatever you want to, you know, frame it
Yeah,
as.
it is quite prevalent, and it is what it is. You know, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
But even those, if the right thing happened, we would all know. Like it would, and it would be over. Like the curtain would just be no Wizard of Oz. What?
Yeah.
It would be like that. It would be
True.
over. Like it can happen in an instant.
True. It's true. Yeah, I guess I have to sort of let that go.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's like a key, you know, it's like if you know that, then like so many other things sort of fall apart and open up to you. And yeah, so I just,
well, I'm a testimony to it. You know, when I was on Crow, I admitted I have a cognitive bias,
yeah,
but I wanted everybody else to know that they have one too.
yeah,
And if it doesn't work, if what you're seeing and all your theories, if there's something that comes up that doesn't fit, or a couple of things that don't fit, your cognitive bias is probably wrong.
Right.
Do you want to really stick to it and just go, no, I'm just going to ignore that and going to keep saying the same thing over? That's, to me, is not seeking truth.
No, that's willful ignorance.
That's right. And that's what it is. So, and I wanted everybody, without me saying that, I wanted everybody to kind of self-analyze. Like, if your cognitive bias is not really working with all the information, and the information right now is very confusing.
True that.
But it's not to me. I can see what's, nothing doesn't fit. Like, I'm not going, oh, I didn't know what is that?
Yeah.
It all makes sense to me, right? So, not to say that something might come that I don't get, but if there's something new that comes, I would change my cognitive bias.
Right.
I would
Yes.
just go, okay, I was sort of right, but I was missing something. Now this is the new truth.
Right. And that's how I actually went from like upbringing of Christianity to full on atheist, like virulent, fierce atheist, and then back to sort of this religious, spiritual, I don't even know what you would call it, but something. And I went kind of full circle because of that exact process. I was like, well, wait, this, and this don't make sense. And so now I'm going to like update to this. And then eventually I get all the way back to like, well, wow, this is actually updated in an updated format, but it's back to the beginning.
Yeah. And that's a good journey.
Yeah. And I think that if anybody is, like you're saying, actually open to saying, well, here's the more information that I have, and, what does that mean? And what sort of beliefs do I have that are not founded in actual knowledge or understanding? Then let's update as we go. Continuously, you're always going to come eventually closer and closer and closer, and finally to the truth, hopefully someday. But that's probably not necessarily here for most people. But you hope that's the process, that people are just continuously moving forward.
Yeah, and that's what I did, and because like I said, what I did was I tried everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there was any truth, patriot philosophy out there that I didn't read, try, say in court, and bang, okay, I'll try it one more time, bang, okay, it's not, I'm missing something. So what is it? Next thing, add that to it, keep that, get rid of that part. Add this to this. Well, now what happens? And like I said, the real demarcation point where it wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of the end. It was when the judge ran out of the room.
That's amazing.
When I walked in, and everybody's looking at each other, including me, like, what's going on? See, everybody thinks that, oh yeah, you did this, and the judge ran out of the room. No, I was trying something. Had no idea whether it would work or not, and then the judge ran out of the room, and then you're going, does he have to go to the bathroom? Like, because you wouldn't connect. It's the piece of paper that you put in there that made him run out of the room. After a period of time, then you realize that, but not when it was happening. It was like, I don't know why he's running out of the room. And everybody's looking at each other. Does anybody know? And
Nobody knows.
No.
Yeah. Well, and that's like it almost feels to me like there's a reason why you were sort of, I don't know, manipulated into sort of traveling this path, maybe because you had that sort of mind and that method of looking at things and updating as you go and sort of trying, testing, trial and error. It's like a scientific mindset, really.
It is.
And then that system, it's almost like, I love this aspect of things that it's almost like, whatever we want to call it, evil or whatever, the trap, whatever it is, it's like all the things that they've set up are actually the reason why it won't work in the end, because they're the thing that will teach us what's actually going on. It's like the problem itself is the reason we'll find the solution almost.
It has the potential for that, but it also has the potential, if you don't find it, we would just keep following it into our own demise, like literally jump off the cliff.
True. What do you think?
Or like right now, there's a strong potential that people would run and get a vaccine right here, right now.
That's absolutely true.
And they would think they were doing the right thing.
Yes. And they would try to destroy you for not doing it because you're going to somehow harm them, even though they...
That potential is very much right now, but other potentials exist at the same time. So so you got to understand, you know, this was an actual, what, you know, the way I look at it, and the things that have happened, and my theory that we have to do something here and we can't know that about it ahead of time. We have to kind of figure it out or trust or whatever it is,
Yeah.
tells me that number one, everything's going to be okay because there is something there, and at least I'm getting it, and others are. So I'm sure I'm not the only one. So otherwise, this could have gone the way of Lucifer.
Right.
It really actually could, and still could today. But except I know it can't
Right.
now at this point.
And how much more powerful that I feel like, at least if I'm understanding everything correctly, that the reason that it won't and can't is because of the very like nature of soul or God or however you want to describe that, right? I think that makes it even more powerful and beautiful.
It really does, and it's comforting to know that that potential is available if we can just access it, and I can almost guarantee it has to do with contracts that he's held back by his own word, because I agreed I will only do this, that and but I'm allowed to have a book in there, or books, or you know, crumbs, so that I can find my way back. And then they had to agree on that, and then those were pulled apart and changed, and you know, they tried to manipulate them as much as possible, but the crumbs are still there, and God can find his way back.
Yes. That's maybe my favorite quote. God can find his way back. Um, oh, I keep losing my train of thought because we have so many interesting things that come up. How much more time do you have? Probably
I
not.
got, yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay. Um, so I guess I want to ask, like, if people listening are like, okay, so what do I actually do with any of this? And we're talking to people who like may or may not be in that sort of spiritual understanding. What would you say people should do, like, first thing?
Like personally, in their
Yeah.
personal lives.
Yeah, for the best for themselves and for everyone. What should they do, like, tomorrow?
Well, education is a key, but you got to find the truth, or at least path towards the truth. And I would suggest reading the Bible. I know it's a big book, and there's a lot in there, but try and get to the bottom of it. A really good book to read that was pulled out of the Bible for the reasons we just talked about
Yeah.
is the Book of Enoch,
Yes.
and that has reveals a lot about what's going on and who some of the blue bloods and controllers are, and why they're here, why they look like us, and that kind of thing.
And I have that electronically. If anyone listening would like it, I can email it to you or whatever.
And once you see that, because I had read the book and then I got involved with commerce and everything, and then I went, I wonder if certain people that I keep writing to are offspring of those events. And again, it's just like an idea, and then you dig deeper, try stuff, and yep.
And it's like you're saying, it's like you're following that inspiration, which is whatever you want to say. It's divinely inspired, you know?
Yeah, it really is. And because I'm not that smart, I'm not dumb either, but I'm not that smart. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's something else going on, and it just comes, and I get epiphanies and hunches, and then I look and I search, and then I look at it objectively. Is this true, or am I getting nutty here, or like And then you try stuff, you send stuff, and you even try stuff subtly, like you put it in a document. And you just, I'm gonna put this little phrase here and see what kind of reaction you get, and boom, it's like, okay, I saw that. I saw you.
Yeah. Saw that response.
And so then you go, okay, I got that one. Now I'm going to expand on that, and boom. So that's how I ended up being able to write a massive document to the Queen, and I
Wow.
got it. Like, I mean, she was. I know she read it personally.
Wow.
There's a document like that. I know she doesn't read all her mail. It went up the chain, but I bet you that one she actually read.
That's amazing. Well, so then this is interesting. So I would assume, and you probably know it much better than I, that you are then have levels of protection that are not just sort of legal in the way we might understand it, but also spiritual, and that this is probably why you're not dead yet, right?
I've had some experiences where it's like in the, I'm not sure how old you are, but the first movie, Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
These are not the doors you're looking for.
Yeah.
I've been there
Wow.
where I should have been seen, but I wasn't.
Weird. This keeps coming up in my life. This idea that that can happen.
And I've had a couple, and one about a year ago, and it was a biggie. And so, yeah, I stayed calm, but all circumstantial evidence was pointing to I'm going to have a very hard time in a few minutes. And but I didn't.
Wow.
I walked out, and can't I can never explain it, like, other
Mm-hmm.
than I was something was protecting me, a cloak or what. Like, I have
Right.
no idea how. I don't know the mechanism because I wasn't doing it myself.
No.
Yeah,
It's like you probably actually even had to like step out of the way almost and let something else.
yeah. I had to stay calm because the situation I was in was very intense,
Mm-hmm.
similar to what we're in now.
Yeah.
But it was very fear oriented, and I got a feeling they were watching me on camera to see my body movements and all that. And so I stay calm, and but yeah, I walked out.
See, and this is part of why I always want people to understand the spiritual side of things, because I think there are times like that where that's going to become sort of crucial that people understand that is a real aspect of reality that can happen if you I guess are in tune with it or aligned with it or open to it or whatever that is. Like you said, I don't know exactly either what it is or how it happens, but I know it probably won't happen if you are convinced that it's not that. And I also, know that there's a lot of people, especially in sort of the conspiracy realm, that would say, because you, Cal, are not dead yet, that means that you're a shill. Because you know what I mean? You must be giving us like something sort of almost the truth, but like not the truth, so that we get led astray, because otherwise, why would they let you keep talking? And I'm always like, there are good forces in the universe and they can actually be powerful, and it's not every single person who sort of pushes at the establishment gets killed. And the only way for me to explain that is that there's something else going on, and so I feel like that's another reason why I wish people like sort of understood the spiritual side of things.
Yeah, put it this way: if you saw the movie Truman, Truman didn't know that he was in a bubble,
Yeah.
and throughout the show, the odd person would come in as an extra, and they would try and put up a sign, Truman, and they would quickly try and get them off, right? But regardless of that, he was in a bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't know it, and he had rights. I don't know if this was in America. I don't know if he was in America or whatever, but I assume so. He actually had American rights, even inside that bubble.
Right.
He didn't know it. And if he didn't believe in America and those rights, then those rights don't exist, and they can just do whatever they want with him.
Right. If you
So
don't
put it
claim
in
it.
that. So put it in terms like that. Just because you don't want to believe or can't believe or whatever, that you may be attached to some other realm outside of this thing, and you have rights, powers that you don't know about, doesn't mean they don't exist.
Yeah.
But if you are going to hold to that position and somebody treats you a certain way because you're holding to that position, you're subject to that because you've agreed.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
disagreed with that, and you've agreed with this, and therefore now you have to live in a bubble like Truman and all that goes with it. So just be open that you might be attached to something that is way more powerful inside of this thing that can operate and is extremely effective.
Yes. And I don't know if you're like me, but I feel like like you've indicated already, like the words are less important than the sort of truth or the principles of it, whatever labels you want to put on that. And I think people get really hung up on Christianity as like a label, and that the Bible is a Christian book and these types of things. And I think for me at least, I'm like, that's much less important than the sort of principles and concepts, and arrangements and systems that are outlined therein. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, and what I try and tell people, because here's something I'll tell you, because when I do live speaking, I have to bring up the Bible, and I know everybody's going to go,
Yeah.
and
Half the people
can't
are going
help it. I
to
don't.
freak
It's not a
out.
judgment. It's just how it is. Your brain just goes, okay, I'm done, and that's on purpose. So what I do
Right.
to try and you know uh, abruptly wake people up is I say, who does not have an opinion about the Bible? So nobody has to. It's like if you have an opinion, you don't have to do anything. So, who does not have an opinion about the Bible? And of all the talks I've done, two. And usually it's the whole crowd, but in two different speaking, one lady years ago, and then one man or another lady at Red Pill. She put her hand up. That's it. And so everybody has an opinion about the Bible. That alone, you should just ponder that.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, and then I say, who's read it? About 10% every time. So I said, so without knowing anybody's opinion, well, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter what it is. If you haven't read it, that's not your own opinion. It cannot be.
That's a
So
really
then you have
good
to
point.
wonder, where did it come from, and why do I hold to it?
Why were you programmed with this opinion? Yes.
So that makes people kind of, jars them a bit. So then I can talk about the Bible. But I say, as far as the Bible goes, forget about the institutions that are come up around it.
Yes.
Pretend you found it under a rock, don't know anything about it, and just go, oh, what's this?
Yes.
Read it.
Yes. Just read it like a book.
Yeah.
What is this thing? Purely objective. What's going on here?
What is this? What is this meaning? Is this an allegory? What is it? Like, what's this God thing? Is that real? Is that what is it? That read it like that objectively, and you will get something out of it.
What do you think about? Is it allegorical? Is it fact? Is it a mix? Or what do you think?
It's a mix.
Yeah.
And there's when you really dive into it, there's codes, and there's so much going on with that book that it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It could be that old and have all that kind of stuff going on when apparently there weren't computers back then. So either that's a lie and they did have computers to figure this out, but even that is like massive to be able to have so much going on and have it all fit together like this mathematical thing. With geometry and all, it's unfathomable. So then I got to the point where, well, who did that?
Yeah.
There'd have to be a mind so unfathomable to be able to put that together. And then I had to go, who was supposed to see this?
Yeah.
It would have to be a being at least along those lines, and that being would have to understand why that was there. And it was like, whoever wrote this is trying to talk to himself.
Wow.
so that he would know that that's me.
Wow.
Come this way.
And isn't it, it's amazing because this idea is reflected in almost every philosophy, every like spiritual philosophy that you can look at actually, is that you are sort of the mind of God or the being of God or the essence of God, trying to remember that and wake up from this trap that you're in with these sort of false, I don't know, powers or false
Yeah,
gods
well,
above you.
exactly. Well, the whole allegory of, the Israelites were slaves and then they got to the promised land, and it's always this coming out of there to over here, coming back to God. The prodigal son, he goes off and then he comes back. It's just, the theme is in there so much, you can't miss it.
Unless you're not actually looking.
Yeah, well, if you don't read it, yeah, I can't help you with that. So that's the problem, and that's what the opinions do. They cause people not to read it, and
Yeah.
so there you go.
Well, this is the other thing that I keep coming back to in this whole scare, because I'm trying to sort of embody calm and my own faith and trust that whatever happens, at the very least, my soul is okay. But like, if you are scared out there of a virus or of what's coming, then that means to me essentially you don't know that you're a soul and that this can't be something that harms you, because otherwise you'd be scared, in a moment from here to there or whatever. But overall, you'd know, like, well, that whatever, that doesn't matter. And there's another thing that I'm like, I wish everybody knew, because you wouldn't be able to be controlled so easily by this fear.
Put it this way: if would God be scared of the virus?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Would God be scared of a body dying or going back to the earth? No.
No.
Right.
So that's the thing, right? So once you kind of go along that path to whatever degree, your life starts to become that, and you experience that, and then the reality adjusts itself around you like that.
It really does. Yeah.
And it can't not. Like, it's like,
It's the rules or something.
yeah, they
Yeah.
can't encroach. Like, the darkness cannot overcome the light. The minute I put a candle on, well, darkness can't.
Yeah. You can't get in there.
No, you can't get on top of it. As soon as there's a light, darkness is gone.
Exactly.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work the other way around.
So there are, however, and this comes up over and over again too, is that when you do sort of like, or whatever you want to call it, like light your candle or whatever, then sometimes the darkness is like trying to blow it out, It's like trying to kind of come in and like show you that it's boss maybe or whatever. It's angry that you found your life. Do you experience much of that? And I guess you kind of already alluded that you did, or told some stories.
Oh yeah, no, I had lots of that in 3D and in spiritual realms. And what I got was, I can see it now, but I was being lied to. You don't have authority to do that kind of thing. And I'm like, maybe I don't know.
That doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Well, maybe I don't. I don't really know if I do or not. After I wrote to the Queen, all doubt disappeared. And my life changed. And it was noticeable in spiritual realms.
Wow. Because that, I feel like those doubt and that fear and stuff is like almost placed malignantly by like a spiritual entity, whether they feed off it or they're like just trying to get you to question things or whatever, to get you off your path, sort of. But you sort of stopped that from even happening at that point.
Yeah, and not to say that my life is perfect or anything like
Right.
that, but it's because I still make mistakes, and everybody has their stuff. But what I'm talking about is I can't be knocked off what I know now and what I can do. Like, I know I can do it, and and they know that I can do it. So it's to the point where my friend was being bothered by one of these things, and she's good at it too, but she couldn't deal with it,
Yeah.
and so she started to text me for help. She said, as soon as I started to text you, it backed off, but
It's
it's
like,
not
oh,
gone. It kind of went, whoa,
don't call him.
yeah.
That's
It's like
awesome.
that. And and then the more that that happens, the stronger I get. It's one of those things, right?
Totally. Yeah, I can feel that. I can imagine that perfectly. And I mean, I think it's cool that you sort of are. What am I trying to say? You have that sort of humility where you're like, yeah, I'm still learning, I'm still going, I'm not perfect or whatever. I'm still a person, because I think people also have this sort of aversion to sort of a spiritual understanding, because they think like, I don't want to pretend like I'm like better than people, or I don't want other people to pretend they're better than me, or that sort of thing. And it's like, it's not like that. You don't suddenly become like a. It's not like you're a saint or like you know.
No, and some people have, or apparently have come to some pretty high levels of behavior and understanding and all that, in all walks of all different faiths.
Yeah.
But it's more like we have to have both um, tendencies going on inside here in order for that original claim to be fair.
Yeah.
So you
It's like
you
free
have to
will.
understand that. So that doesn't like disappear. You kind of, it becomes less and less and less. But I don't think it actually goes until if you're still in this body.
Yeah.
I think, whatever happens after this, I don't know. But um, and I think, I mean, the Bible says that things are about to change, and that we will be in new bodies, and that aspect will be gone, and we won't even think like that anymore.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, where you would never try and take advantage of another being, like you just wouldn't even, just like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like why?
Yeah, it wouldn't even, like, it wouldn't even be a choice.
Yeah.
Not that we'd be robots, but it would be just like, it would be so ridiculous that
It's like you're so far beyond that. It'd be like us like putting on diapers right now or something.
yeah,
It's just
exactly.
like,
We'd be
why
like
would I
that,
do
like,
that?
yeah, well, that's, that's ridiculous. So that's all happening and now, and people are changing. We're all moving towards it, to varying degrees, and there are those that aren't,
Yeah.
by their choice, because they believe that they can win and they're smarter than everybody and all that, and they are quite clever, but they are also, their arrogance is their downfall, because
Yes.
they make blunders like,
They're so sure. It's their hubris. I
yeah,
love their hubris.
yeah, because it's their downfall. It really is.
And I mean, it's sad. I feel sad. I have this thing in life where I feel like, and I read someone today who was like, didn't anyone ever think to pray for the devil? Like, he's the number one thing we should be praying for, because he's like so lost. And I always have this thing like, how much empathy and sympathy should I have for people who are sort of led astray or chosen a different path or whatever? And I'm never quite sure, because I don't want to be so empathetic that I get like drawn into something and get dragged down, but I also do feel bad because I feel like it was a trick that was played. But like you said, I think that there's a choice, and I think there's a reason that even in your story, we can see this sort of progression where you were given like another choice and then another choice and then another choice, and each time you maybe probably had like this doubt and this fear that you had to choose to overcome. Almost like this training sort of, that you went through. And it's like, I have to imagine that every soul has that same sort of progression. However it plays out might be very different, but, that there is always a choice, and that you do make it at some level knowingly, in some way. Otherwise, I can't understand it.
No, it wouldn't make any sense, and that's the thing. So, and it all comes down to that choice in that original case.
Yeah.
The original glitch in the matrix, or the original flaw in the thing, and
The original sort of loophole that was twisted or something.
yeah, like it's like everything's fractal, but then there's this weird virus thing that's been festering and growing, and right now it's contained in this thing, whatever this is.
Yeah.
But I just because the universe seems to be fractal, or at least where we are, there's macro and micro and all that.
Yeah.
I can't see it not continuing on. that this problem here is probably spreading elsewhere, and therefore what we do here has ramifications beyond where we are.
Fascinating. That makes a lot of sense to me too. And it also is echoed in various ways in various philosophies and texts and ideas. And, that this is actually vitally important and matters not just to us, but to everything.
Yeah.
How, so do you think that there's like literal extraterrestrials or aliens or other physical realms that are connected with that then? Or do you think it's mostly in like a spiritual sort of plane or both?
Both. I think this is just a slowed down version of everything. But like Enoch, and well, I have to, not to that degree that Enoch did, but Enoch did not travel in metal things.
Yeah.
And but there were what you would describe as portals and what they would describe as wormholes and that kind of thing that if you just read it, you can kind of
See it.
try and get past all the language and the descriptions because he didn't have a context
Right.
that we have now. And you can see that that's how he was able to travel, and he was showing a lot of things. So
I see that like personally kind of extra dimensionally more than extraterrestrially. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing in the end. But like
well,
you
it
said,
is.
yeah.
It is. And so we have this idea, or at least there's a thought that there are other beings that are hard matter inside of metal things, and they move from one space to the other, and that I just don't think that's true.
Yeah.
um,
I don't either.
just because of my own experience, and then some of the readings that I have of people that have traveled, and even some of the studies I've done around the Great Pyramid in Giza and what they were doing with that, and the phi spiral and all that stuff they were trying to get out. And it wasn't about getting in a box and propelling yourself anywhere like that.
Yeah, they misunderstood.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
they do.
it was definitely interdimensional, or however you describe that, but it wasn't about getting in a thing.
Yeah. I'm with you. I also, my experience and understanding leads me to understand that not as a physical, yeah, like not as a thing, but definitely travel and movement happens, and other entities and intelligences occur and exist.
Absolutely.
So then, I don't know, I guess it's like a lot of pressure to think that, what we're doing is like so fundamentally important that it affects like literally everything. But when I think of that sort of fractal nature of things, I try not to put all that pressure on myself. At least I try to think of it as like, it's just me, and it's just right here, and all that really matters is what I do with myself. And you can think of it as like for yourself, but really it's for everything. But I just try not to look at it as like, I just feel like a lot of people could feel overwhelmed at that idea that like, oh my God, this is like the key to everything, and like what I do matters to like all that exists. Like that's too much pressure.
But it's not pressure, because it still comes down to you.
Yeah, that.
So you can look at it, but if you can become conscious that you're doing it, that's how it has more effect.
Yes.
That's all. But, it will have an effect if you just work on yourself. It will have an effect.
Yes.
But you can add juice to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And I feel like that's also echoed in philosophies across the world and throughout history, is that, what you do, the work that you do in yourself is actually vitally important to everything that exists in ways that you probably can't understand, and that is its own kind of courage. I think both sides of it take an immense amount of courage to both face the sort of external world and continue to choose to sort of confront the reality of things and keep going, but also to confront the sort of internal side of yourself takes a lot of courage as well. And I think anyone doing either of those types of works or both are heroes in my book.
Yeah, and they are the same thing,
Yeah.
because your reality, whatever's out there, is happening in here. So it's
Fractal.
yeah. So the more you can become aware of it without without, I understand what you're saying, but if you can not take on
The pressure, yeah.
yeah, the enormity of it,
Right.
but still be aware that, yeah, what I do here has an effect on everything. And, you can make big changes. Like stuff gets out of your way, starts to, like, I'm just trying to encourage you. You can be way more effective. Not that you're not that, yeah, I don't want to say it that way. It's more like the more you're aware of who you are and what you can do, the more you can do and will do, and you'll be amazed.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that awareness, and that builds. You can't jump. I couldn't jump to where I am now, and I don't even know where I am now
Yeah.
as compared to where I'm going to be.
Right.
But it wasn't a jump. It was
A series of,
yeah,
yeah.
progressive, and then trial and error. I'm very scientific, like you said. A lot of people accuse some of the things that I say happened as coincidence. I did the same.
Yeah. You're
But I
like, I
didn't.
also didn't understand or expect this or like think that it was
Yeah,
normal.
I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking that. It looks like because people hear me talk and everything. It looks like I knew what I was doing the whole time. Well, no, I did not. I was trying stuff, and I stuck with what worked and dropped what didn't work or seemed frivolous one way or the other, and just stuck with what was the essentials, and just stuck with it, and made that grow, and it got stronger and stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for people to see like wherever anyone is right now and understand what happened before that wasn't necessarily as linear or organized as it seems now. It's like,
No,
it's hard to tell a story without sort of like putting it in that format, that linear format that we understand, but like living through it is a whole different story. And it's good for people to understand that, because I think people look at things like this and they're like, well, that's not really how my life works. And it's like, well, it is how all of our lives work. It's
yeah,
just not as linear as it seems.
yeah. Just so you understand, when I was arrested without bail, I could not see the end.
You were,
In my mind, and I knew this because I met people who had been in remand. Like, remand is when um, you're incarcerated pending trial. Like, you're not actually convicted of anything. 10, 11 years
wow.
in this kind of limbo. I'm held without bail. You got to understand this.
Yeah.
I don't see the end.
No.
This could literally, I could be in here for a very long time.
Wow.
So you got to understand that. Everybody sees what happened at the end, but I had to go through that, not knowing when or if I was going to get out.
Wow. That'd be really hard to keep hope through.
Yeah, and it was a whole summer, and I didn't get to see my kids, and that was the really hard part. And I was arrested on a 4th of July. I was supposed to be at a 4th of July party. Missed that. Missed one of my kids' birthdays, my dad's birthday, and literally, there wasn't like, oh yeah, at 60 days I'll be out. That's how it is after the fact. But when I was there, I didn't know where the end was.
Wow. Yeah. That would be really, really hard. Do your kids, how old are they, or if you don't mind sharing, and do they understand any of this sort of process, or what do they think about it?
Well, they were in high school for the most part. My oldest one at the time was around 16, 17. She's now 29. And they kind of, I had meetings, and they overheard stuff. But when I got out, the kids at school, at their high school, they thought I was a hero, and they became like,
Wow.
your dad, yeah. And so they kind of, oh, okay, yeah,
We got status now.
yeah. And so, and a lot of kids hung out at my house, and they didn't tell me so much, but they told my kids, when I come to your dad's house, there's just a feeling here. Like I feel safe, and I feel
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. They all felt it, and this was there was something different about the house, and they loved being there. And the kids were always there, and my house was always open.
That's
I
like
never locked it.
a level of confirmation you wouldn't have known to even ask for, but is pretty powerful.
Yeah. So, and then my daughter now. I mean, at first, because I could do stuff with time a little bit, and Dad, you can't do all these things like that. That's just yeah, I can. I can. I can't explain it, but it's there. And now she does all that stuff, and Dad, it was like she comes to me for advice, or Dad, I was in the building where this is before he was president, where Donald Trump lives, and I opened a portal. I'm like, what? And I'm supposed to give it to you, and I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So
Wow.
yeah. So they came a long way.
Hmm.
So all my kids are spiritual. My 4-year-old son knows stuff that he can't know.
Yeah. That's
Like
awesome.
but he just knows, right? So
So this is part of the idea too that it's like affecting all the people around you, even if it's almost like vicarious or like osmosis or something, or morphic resonance or whatever you want to call that. It's like seeping in around.
yeah, and it's not me doing it or anything like. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not.
Right.
It's yeah, there is something spreading, and people reading the documents, because a lot of people were skeptical, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Who was this guy, and he's not a lawyer, and
Hmm.
and so they would read them, and probably to find fault with them, even. They
Yeah.
wouldn't say that, but those that read it 20 times, they all always came back and said, you know what, I get it, and I something has happened inside me, like I'm different.
Hmm. It's like the key unlocked something inside there.
Something. And so we just wanted to build on that, because that was coming back, and okay, one, whatever, that's nice. And then two, and then three. So it's like, okay, like that's just where I go. If this is starting, if I'm getting that a lot, then there's something going on. We need to actually, that's a sign, like like do something with that, right?
Yeah.
So
Follow that.
that's what we're trying to do on the membership site, is just teach people, watch this, read that, and no preachy stuff. Just
Right.
figure it out. Go your like whatever you're interested in, like do that, and something's gonna happen inside. I can't explain it.
Right. It makes sense to me. I don't know. You don't have to explain it to me, but what do you want to explain any more about the portals or things with time?
I I haven't done time in a while, but it was something that I started to realize that I could slow time down.
Hmm.
Like I could get places where I knew that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
And so there was one time I was trying to get my daughter's citizenship, because I got all my kids after I got mine. I had to do it before she turned 18, and she was like a good hour away. She had forgot some documents or whatever, and I was downtown. I said, "Okay, Sarah, just you got to get here. We got to catch this bus so we can get to Seattle, and then we can get to Yakima. And if we miss this bus, we don't get that one, and then we'll miss our appointment." "We can't, Dad. There's not enough time." I said, "Don't worry about the time. I can slow time down." "You can't slow time down." I said, "Sarah, just
Just go.
move." "Well, I can't even get to the house." I said, "Okay, I'll phone Dean. Dean, where are you?" I'm right by Scott Road Station." "Oh, good. Sarah, Dean's right by the station you're at. He will take you there and bring you back to the station." And even then, Probably something that should have taken an hour and a half took 45 minutes or less, like 40 minutes. She was 15
Wow.
minutes early. She got there and
She's like, what?
yeah, like what?
I love this. I think this is a big another thing that anybody can sort of take away is that when you sort of act in maybe faith is the right word, I don't know, but act as though this is going to be the way that it happens, it's much more likely to happen that way than if you act as though it's not going to happen, or believe that it's
Yeah,
not going to happen.
yeah,
And that can be a powerful thing, even like you're saying, beyond what we understand of sort of like physical bounds or the bounds of time or whatnot. And I don't
yeah.
know.
And I don't know everything.
Right.
But I've just seen enough, and I just trust, and it's more like trust, but it's not even a good word either. I don't know what it is. I just can, you try something and then it works, and you did that work? Am I fooling myself? You know, like I go
Yeah.
through all those thoughts, and then okay, I'll try it again, and okay, well, after about 3 or 4 times, well, no, I'm doing that. Like
That's actually happening. Yeah.
it's something going on here. So you extrapolate that out, and you can get involved with some pretty big stuff, and God can trust you to do certain things, and paths are laid out in front of you, and that's what I saw. I didn't see it while I was on the path, but I could see them after the fact. I went, oh, now I see why that all happened, because I needed to be here, and I wouldn't be here if didn't do that, and that wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen. And you can see this thing going, something is leading me, and it's not me consciously doing it. I'm just trying to, get through the day,
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
get through
Well,
the next thing.
yes. I feel like I could probably talk to you forever and ever about all of these things, but I know that we should probably draw things to a close at some point, unfortunately. And I want to reemphasize that what you just said, that you're just sort of going a step at a time, a step at a time to the next thing, to the next thing, and having this sort of like faith and understanding that you know I guess that you will keep moving forward. And I liked how you put it that it's like you can have a sort of trust and a sort of faith in God or whatever you want to call it, but I liked what you said where you said like God can sort of almost like trust you too, to sort of like be that, hold that energy here, hold that space here, or like fulfill whatever task it might be or whatever, however you want to think about that. And I think that is really cool. And I definitely, if you have more to say about that process of the trust going both ways, I would like to hear more about that before we draw things to a close, sort of.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I get together and pray with two ladies who are very gifted as well, and they're like they have gifts, and together the stuff happens. So like where three are gathered,
Huh.
yeah, he shows up,
Yeah.
and so we got a vision of 7 portals, because I did one in London, and that one was like, did that happen? Was that real? I mean, I said everything properly, but and I believed it, but it became very real because of the other story when I landed and looked like my life was going to be taking a detour for a couple of days, and but it didn't. So that's what really told me, what I did in London was real, and they know it, and they know what flight I was on, and blah blah blah. So, and it was quite an intense thing when I landed in Canada. So that all said, now I know that's happening. I don't know what I did because I didn't know what it was. So I'm clever enough to use wording, because I've just done a lot of law stuff, that I can use wording that is expansive or contractive. And so I said, whatever this is, if it's supposed to be open, open it. If it's supposed to be closed, close it. And whoever is in charge of this thing, you are now relieved, and I give it now to archangels. That's the command,
Yeah.
the order coming from inside here, and it's one of those you can't disobey order. I'm telling you, I don't know how to explain it, but that's how it's taken. and I know it, and they know it. They start running as soon as I start talking.
Hmm.
So we did whatever to that, and it's right in front of Buckingham Palace. Then, so that was about a year ago, and then just last week we were showing 7 more from Europe to Israel, and the word was direct hit. That's the only word we got, and I went, well, I know what that is because I did it over there.
Hmm. Wow.
Not knowing what they were, we had to actually go on the internet. Oh, wow, look at that! Didn't know there was were even there.
Huh.
And so that's the sort of the level of trust or camaraderie or working together that starts to happen.
Yeah.
Where they need somebody here to say something,
Yes.
they know if they can just get, they're not allowed to. There's rules, I can tell, because they can't just blurt it out. They have to kind of look at that, right? And then we have to decipher it together. But usually between the three of us, with all of our gifts, one can really see, like, and one can hear, and I can kind of decipher stuff. So it just kind of, I don't know, there's just this really nice I don't know what the word is, but we work really as one, and but we're working also with somebody or something outside of this realm.
Yeah.
And in this very symbiotic, like just it's very organic and hard to describe. But anyway, so there's a lot that we've done that nobody knows about.
Yes. Well, this is the thing that always I feel like it's actually very rare that somebody would get to where you're at, because I feel like whatever you want to call the word, like a lot of ego, I think would normally get in the way. And whereas you're sitting here telling this story and relating these things and saying, like, it's not even really me, like this is just how it's happening and what's happening and whatever. And it's like, I think like a lot of people would be like, oh, I want that power and I want to do this thing and like me. And then that in itself almost would like ruin the thing, and it wouldn't come through as easily because you have something in the way there, I think. And I guess I don't really know what I'm saying so much as I just respect that aspect. And I think that I hope that people listening and watching will consider, there's this double-edged sort of thing about it where like you have to believe in yourself and know that you are this spiritual force and that can be connected with that, and you also have to like not make it about you and like what you can or can't do or whatever.
Yeah, and if you get too far, then you are in the same boat that Lucifer was in the first place.
Yes, there's a reason for these things.
Yeah, so you there's a it's not like a it's more like just calm down and yeah, and not take things so seriously, but seriously enough, but like yourself and what's in it for me and all that kind of stuff. Like as far as InPower, if I had a choice, I wouldn't do it. Like I'm not.
It's a service you're
like
doing.
I said, this started with, can you come down and speak in Seattle? I'm like, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not that guy. And here I am on a internet show. Like this was so far out of my what I wanted to be or do, or like it's not my thing.
Right.
I'm doing it and I enjoy this, but it's not something I strive to be. I want to be this thing. Like I'm not there. That's why it doesn't come across, because that's not who I am. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's that, I think that aspect, and maybe it wasn't even necessarily intentional, but the aspect of sort of service. You're like, well, someone needs to do this, right? And I guess like I'm being asked to do it and I can do it and it's good for people and so I should do it. It's like that aspect. It's like I think people also kind of misunderstand like a service oriented mindset where you don't have to like live ascetically and like in the ditch with like just sackcloth over you or something, and like in order to serve people, you can serve people from wherever you're at in a lot of ways, and I think they become apparent as you move forward.
Yeah, with what you got. I mean, I went on a pretty extraordinary journey,
Yeah.
and therefore, I got some knowledge from that, and so now I can see that there is a path, and I'm supposed to do this, but it's not something I was looking to do. Like
Yeah.
I play the drums,
Yeah. Right. Oh, awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love everything about this, and I'm so glad we've been able to talk. And I know we've said a lot that people can go to the InPower site and find out more and get connected with all sorts of things. But where should people go, and what should they do if they want to connect with you more and move forward with that?
InPowerMovement.com.
That's just the one place they should go and check it out.
Yeah, we got smart people like not me, but know how to do all these techie things. So that will get you to where you need to be. And there's people that can help. There's ask questions and lead you. We're trying to set it up for real novice computer people, like just as accessible to as possible. The little old lady in some county in Arkansas that's never had a speeding ticket, she should be able to come in and be able to function.
Awesome. And do you have any events or projects sort of coming up that you want to mention?
Actually, I'm on with Richie from Boston tomorrow with
cool.
Andy Kaufman.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, together. I'm not. So it'll be. We have no agenda. We're just gonna
Just talk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. That'll be really exciting. So that'll be on Richie from Boston's channel.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So everyone can tune into that. And if you are not sure, that would be Friday the 3rd. If you're listening to this at some other time, right? I think that's
Friday
the date.
the 3rd.
Okay. All right. And then what are your sort of final thoughts or messages or sort of words of wisdom that you might want to leave people with before we draw it down?
Don't be afraid. The analogy I give is what we're witnessing is a chicken with its head cut off. And if you've never seen a chicken with its head cut off before, you would think you can't kill a chicken.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it's like that. Another analogy is a fetus does not know that it's inside of a mother and that there is an outside of the mother. And when the birth actually starts to happen, it can seem like it's the end of the world.
Yeah. I love those images. What a good way to keep whatever faith that people can keep in this time of craziness and a lot of hope, because that's a beautiful thing that's coming.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to Cal Washington. Cal, it's been a pleasure to have you, and I hope that we can talk again sometime.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, there are more layers than we know, and the path toward peeling them away is never ending. You have not yet arrived, and you are not yet done. If you stop, now or ever, you will never find truth, and you will never live free. Always keep pushing beyond your current understandings of what is, so that you do not stagnate under the film of scum called arrogance. And until you bleed fresh with the newly removed layers, exposure to the air of truth, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak. While the tongue feeds a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the god was booed. It's sorcery to recreate the god forgery. Does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Pinio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't meeting me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branched out. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasp hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.